Howdy, y'all. Hey, I have a tale to tell you, and it may save your life. So once you've heard me tell it, go run and tell your wife, your cat, your dog, your tree. If you're not versed, you may be cursed with biochemistry. That's a little poem that I learned many a year ago, back when I was in college and taking a biology class. And when we got to the part that where we studied viruses, it really got interesting. It turns out viruses, although they are tiny little things, they really aren't exactly what you would call alive. They're kind of on the edge of being more of a robot. And actually, to replicate, they have to come into a host cell and take over the mechanics of that cell, and that's how they replicate. It's kind of a fine line there. If they kill the host, then they die too. But if they just make it sick like the flu, they can, replicate and then spew out in a cough or a sneeze or something, and maybe hitch a ride on somebody else, another host. So anyway, when I said they're tiny, they are compared to one cell in your body, which is pretty small itself, but you can see it with a microscope. They are about 1/100th that size. So if you think about a regular egg that you might get at the grocery store compared to a little brass BB that you would shoot out of a BB gun, that's about how their size. So really tiny. So when it comes to masks, those that think those masks might protect them, a dust mask really isn't going to do the job. That's kind of like trying to seine minnows with the big old ocean net that would be trying to catch, something like, I don't know, salmon or something out in the ocean. Little minnows are going to swim right through it. Now, there are some HEPA masks that filter down to like 1 micron. Now, those have a chance of filtering out a virus. A virus is about 3 microns down to, I believe it's about 1/2 of a micron. But you have to have a really good fit on your face. Otherwise, you could suck a little air from the side. They do have, I think, some N5 or something masks that are like surgical masks that do a pretty good job of catching stuff that's out coming from the doctor's mouth so that he doesn't contaminate somebody that he's operating on. But and they can do something towards getting particulate matter. If somebody was to sneeze and a droplet of sneeze was to hit that mask, chances are most of it would not be allowed to get through. And when it comes to viruses, the more you ingest at a particular time, that's called a load. The bigger the load, so to speak, the more chances you have of getting sick from it. Your body might be able to fight off, a small amount and kill it. But if you get a really big load and it's overwhelms your immune system, you're probably going to get sick. Now, nobody really knows where these viruses came from. For all we know, they hitchhiked in on some comet or asteroid or something and been space travelers for thousands, millenniums, or whatever. I don't know. But somehow or another, they came to Earth here. They may have even split off of some bacteria or something, some of the scientists say. But anyway, they're here, and they're pretty much here to stay. We're going to have to deal with them. And the bad thing is, they seem, I don't know, it's not so bad if you can contain them, but with the jet travel nowadays, people are, hopping on a jet and going from here to China, or somebody's coming back from China to over here and to all different parts of the world, Australia, and I don't know, just even to islands out in the middle of the nowhere, like Hawaii, I think even has cases. So it's really the jet engines that provided the energy to get these viruses transported. So air travel is definitely something that you don't want to be doing these days. And of course, the airlines and stuff have pretty much shut down flights, except, special circumstances to go pick up a group of people and bring them back, and then they put them in quarantine or whatever, which is a good idea. I guess the whole idea, if you want to try and stay safe from these viruses, is social distancing, and the CDC has already talked about that. You want to keep your distance from people, and they recommend at least 6 feet. I recommend don't even go in them with a mile of people. If you can stay at your house, and I know a lot of people don't have that option because they have to work, make the mortgage and stuff. But if you possibly can, and the grocery store is kind of the equalizer. Everybody's got to eat, so somebody's got to go into that grocery store and then bring the food back to the family. So that's kind of a dangerous thing. But the reason I talked about the mask and stuff is the masks really aren't going to do much towards stopping the virus. You really have to stay away. One host of the virus has to stay away from all the other potential hosts, or vice versa. The potential hosts have to stay away. People live on top of each other in New York City, and that's where they're having a big problem. Of course, Hunan, China, people are just really packed in there. It's a highly populated city as well. So anyway, they talk about the CDC, and some of the basic things that you wouldn't think could save your life can save your life. It's not the fancy mask or whatever. It's just washing your hands. Believe it or not, if you get those viruses on your hands from pushing that little shopping buggy around, or somebody, right before you that sneezed on their hand or whatever and put their hand on that shopping buggy, and now all of a sudden you've got, and it doesn't take much, on the head of a pin, you can fit 20,000 of these little tiny viruses. So one little droplet of spittle from a sneeze could have, 40, 50, 60,000 viruses in it. And it could dry on there and still be on there 3 hours later when you grab that shopping cart. So it's really important to wash your hands. If you have hand sanitizer at the grocery store, use it before you go in. Wipe down that cart, and then use it when you're exiting. And as soon as you get home, wash your hands really good again. And I'm not talking about for, just 5 or 10 seconds or whatever. You got to really get in there and wash your hands. So social distancing is probably key, the most key, and then cleanliness also, keeping the viruses off the surfaces at your house. If you get a package from Amazon or whatever, open it outside, throw the packaging away out there, open the thing, the blister pack, get rid of it, and if you can, even wash the item. Or if you can, wash some of your groceries or whatever. Maybe bananas or whatever, you can just peel them. You'd probably be okay if you wash your hands afterwards. But, if you're going to eat a tomato or something like that, you definitely want to give it a good rinsing off first. So anyway, I know that's no groundbreaking, earth-shaking kind of news or whatever, but it's just something I just wanted to share about these viruses. They're really tiny. They're going to be around even when the weather warms up. At the end of spring, we start going into summer. We're going to probably see some of this die off, but this virus is probably going to be around, and at some point, it's going to just start bouncing around like a what do they call those things? Not a ping pong ball, but a pinball machine or something. It's going to bounce from China to Australia, there back to Malaysia, and from Malaysia back over to here, Hawaii, whatever. The jet travel, it's kind of like, and I'm not trying to scare anybody here, but it does remind me of the Fourth Horseman. I think he was riding a white horse, and he had a quiver full of arrows, and those arrows are jet airplanes. You could see just how quickly this spread around the world. In 2020 when we got here, boy, it was a great year. The stock market was doing wonderful. Everybody was all happy, man. We were just going and blowing. And all of a sudden, man, coronavirus shows up and everybody jumps on jet airplanes, and next thing you know, man, it's all over the world. You can look at some of the maps, I think it's John Hopkins. If you go to search John Hopkins, it'll show you a worldwide rendition of where all the virus is, and it looks like the world has the measles and it's taken over basically. So anyway, I'm not trying to be a fearmonger and scare anybody, but just, give you useful tips. Don't go to the beach and, party it up with your girlfriend and boyfriend and stuff. Just because you're young doesn't mean it can't kill you. I read a story just today where a 39-year-old woman, healthcare worker, wearing a mask and everything, contacted and came down with the virus. The testings took 5 days then, and she started feeling poorly. went in and said, "Oh, I'm not doing well." And they said, "Well, you might have the flu. You could possibly have this corona thing. We can test you." And she said, "No, don't waste a test on me. Everything's going to be good. I'll just go home and it'll all be good." Well, she goes home, and sure enough, she did start feeling better. And her boyfriend came over. They took the dog for a little walk. He thought she was doing fine. And I think it was the next day or two, he started texting her and checking on her and stuff, and she never would answer. So he went over to check on her, and he found her dead on the kitchen floor. So it's not a joke. Even if you're young, you got to really get serious and get into this social isolation, is what I would call it. Not just distancing, but if you can, stay away from people. And I know that's hard to do if you live in a big city and y'all live on top of each other, but for the future, because this isn't going away, if you can possibly, get skills that would take you out of the city and let you, move back into the agricultural community or whatever, might not be a bad idea, because like I say, these things are just, they're going to keep coming, and there's nothing we can do about it. The viruses are just too tiny really to fight, and they're very hard to fight. You can't really kill them, because they're not alive. They're more like little robots. So, well, I would like to say, you can also try and boost your immune system. Your cell is going to be attacked by that virus, and it's got a little covering over it that uses cholesterol, believe it or not, kind of a fatty insulation. And you can kind of boost that up. You can take your vitamins, vitamin D, eat your oranges, all that kind of stuff, and try not to be stressed out. If you can, get into some yoga, that kind of stuff. Drink some herbal tea, make some time to relax. I always, when I'm trying to, keep my blood pressure down, I try and close my eyes and pretend like I'm falling asleep, like I'm going to start snoring or something. Get in the zone, right before you go to sleep. And do those kind of things, and it can really help your immune system beat a small load of virus if you do happen to contact some off some shopping buggy or something like that. So anyway, take care of yourself, get plenty of rest. Sleep is another important thing that you can do to help fight off a virus. So one other thing I think is really worthy of mention is, and it's the E word, I know it's everybody hates to do it, or a lot of people do, is exercise. There's something about exercising and getting your blood flowing that really feeds all of your cells in your body, and it really makes a lot of difference in the health of those cells. So in addition to sleep, exercise is really an important thing. And I hate to say this kind of thing, but there's a lot of people that just, I just got to say, the vices that people have, like drinking and smoking. Alcohol is a desiccant, which means it dries out your cells, and they really need, just like your car needs good lubrication to keep on working, so do the cells of your body. So alcohol, getting all tore down on Friday night or whatever, come Saturday, man, and you get out there and do some shopping Saturday or Sunday, that can make you susceptible. So, and also smoking, this thing attacks your lungs, which are a very, very fine instrument. If you spread out all of the surface area of your lungs, they say you can cover a tennis court. And so you get it all bottled up, put back inside your chest, bunch of tiny, tiny little balloons, and when the oxygen comes in to them, it transmits that oxygen to your blood, which goes out and feeds your cells, and without it, they're going to die really quick. So if you're slathering up the inside of those little balloons with tar, and you've done that for years, it's going to take some effect on the rest of your body. So and even that vaping stuff has nicotine or whatever in it, any of that stuff that you're introducing into your body is not supposed to be there. So just the long and short of it is if you have vices and you can kick those things, it would really behoove you to do so, because the Grim Reaper basically is coming for us all. Nobody gets off this planet alive. And I don't mean to sound, macabre or anything, but the truth is he's going to take a swipe at us all with the scythe at some point. And if you have given him opportunity, you are not nimble enough to get out of the way, then he might get a hold on you, might get the grip on you or something. So a lot of people succumb to pneumonia. Your lungs are super important to keep you healthy. That tiny, thin membrane is a very thin curtain between life and the hereafter. So if you have vices and you can cut down on them, really work to do that. Try to replace it with exercise, good hydration, good, just try and take care of yourself, because it's really important to stay strong. Anyway, hope this helps, and wish you the best.